Hello everybody and welcome to FreeSpirit-TV Information Beyond Mainstream. Today I'm very honored to present to you Ole Dammegard. Ole is truth seeker, codebreaker, peacemaker, author, international speaker and leading expert on false flag operations. Over 30 years of his life he has been dedicated in researching many of the global conspiracies like the assassinations of JFK, Martin Luther King, John Lennon and Lady Di, as well as the terror attacks of 9/11, Norway, Oklahoma City and many more. Today I'm very excited to talk with him about false flag operations in general and how we can help prevent such planned massacres from happening.
Hier noch eine Nachricht in eigener Sache. FreeSpirit-TV ist eines von mehreren Projekten des FreeSpirit-Bewusstseinstrainings. Dieses Training ist ein hervorragendes Konzept für Menschen, die einfach mehr vom Leben wollen. Wenn du dich nach etwas sehnst, sei es, dass du noch glücklicher sein möchtest oder reicher, gesünder oder nach einer tollen Beziehung, wenn du dich beruflich auf deine Vision konzentrieren und noch so einiges anderes verwirklichen möchtest, dann empfehlen wir dir von ganzem Herzen das FreeSpirit Bewusstseinstraining. Du findest es unter www.freespiritinfo.com. Ah ja, und noch etwas. Da immer mehr alternative Kanäle im Internet unterdrückt werden, wissen wir nicht, wie lange wir dort noch senden können. Für den Fall, dass die uns das Licht abdrehen, sei vorbereitet und abonniere daher unbedingt unseren Newsletter auf freespirit-tv.ch. Danke und schön, dass es dich gibt.
Hello Ole, welcome.
Hello.
It's very nice to have you here.
Thank you so much for bringing me here. I feel very honored to be here in your beautiful studio, I must say. Beautiful surroundings. The right
Thank
surroundings
you.
to talk about these things because they're so dark. So you need sort of a balance to the whole thing and you created a very beautiful sacred space for it.
Thank you. Ole, why and how did you start researching global conspiracies?
Oh my God, it's been a long road. And for me, I used to work as a journalist when I was really young. It was one of the first jobs I got. And it was a job that taught me one of the things to be curious, also to ask questions and not just talk, but listen instead. But most importantly was to listen to what was not being said. You know, because people are always talking, especially when they're in power positions. They will tell you stuff, but the question is, what will they leave out? If they have something to hide, they will not talk about it. They will point in other directions. So the years when I was working as a journalist, it really helped me see that, hang on a second, just because you get a press release, that doesn't mean that it's true. Because it could be true, but sometimes there are things left out. And that's sometimes where you will find the real truth. On many different levels, it doesn't matter, but in certain circumstances, certain events and so on, that's where you have to look. What's not being said, that's where you need to start digging. Mm-hmm. And then in around, I think it was 1980, I remember it like it was yesterday, it was the first time I saw the so-called Zapruder film. Where there was this bystander who filmed the assassination of JFK. And when I saw the final headshot, I mean, it was so obvious to me. I mean, it's like a 4-year-old, 8-year-old can figure it out like this, that the shots did not come from behind and to the right where they said that the shooter was, Lee Oswald, but it came from the front and to the right because his head was thrown back like this. So anyone with any kind of normal intelligence, not being brain dead or controlled, can right away say the official story doesn't match up. There's something wrong here. And so I was like very confused because you had all of these heavyweight news channels like History Channel, Discovery, all of these that were starting up, ABC, CNN, whatever, I can't remember in those years, but all the heavyweights, mainstream media was saying Oswald, maybe he was helped by someone else, Oswald. And I was like, there's something very strange going on here. Either I'm very slow, I've been very naive, I'm very slow in certain areas, but it turns out that I'm almost like Rain Man in this, when it comes to these things. So I started trying to figure out what is it I don't understand, because apparently, I mean, they're saying it, so it must be true, because in those days I trusted media, I trusted the police, I trusted authorities, I trusted the government. I thought, yeah, so what's going on here? And that took me down a road that just changed my whole perspective of seeing things. And I mean, I almost got obsessed with the JFK assassination. This was way before the JFK movie. I mean, like 10, 11 years before. It was way before the internet. So it was hard to get info about, and not very many people were interested, as far as I know.
How did you do that?
Sorry?
How did you do that then? Where did you get the infos from?
I was in, you know, secondhand bookshops, finding old dusty things. I was in libraries. I went to England. I went to the US. I was trying to find different film directors that had done documentaries. I was, you know, but I was hitchhiking. I was like a one-man band, no money. I'm just confused. Help me find out what the hell happened, because I just had this feeling inside, this is important. I did not know it. I just thought it was a murder of a president. I did not see that it was connected with other stuff. So also one of the things that happened was that I read about, I think, 200 books about the JFK assassination. And in the end, I started writing my own. It was the first book I ever wrote. But it was just for me to try and somehow make a logic sense of the whole thing. And it didn't make sense at all, because it was so multi-layered, pointing in all different directions. And also what I found very confusing to start with was that, like, for instance, there were talk about one guy, for instance, and he was working for the CIA. In another book, he was being paid by the FBI. And in another book, he was working for the mob as a hitman. And I thought, it can't be true. I mean, somebody is wrong here. But all of them were heavyweight researchers. So I just had to figure out. So I kept on. And in the end, I understood they were all right. All of them were correct. Because these agencies and the mafia, organized crime, are in bed with each other. They're totally entangled. It's the same coin, just different. So many of them were working for the mob at times, paid off by the CIA if they were needed them for operations, and the FBI and other organizations as well. Mossad, it's the same individual. And once I started seeing that, I started like, whoa, something here is interesting, because I thought the CIA, good guys, FBI, good guys, what the hell are they doing with the mob? Yeah. What are they doing with mass murderers? What are they doing with drive-by shootings and gang violence? And like, it doesn't make sense. They're there to solve the crimes, not be part of them. So then that led me into studying Martin Luther King, that assassination, Robert Kennedy. I had no idea that they were connected at that time. I thought totally separate attacks. Abraham Lincoln, Julius Caesar. I mean, it took me all the way back to the old Romans, because I started seeing very clearly that there was like a bullet point list. I never saw the list in writing, but I started seeing it was following like the same template, like boom, not the exact way they killed the person, which is most of the time triangular fire, multiple shooters, multiple getaway cars and so on. But when I'm talking about the setup with a patsy, a totally innocent individual that was being blamed for it, with an investigation that followed that would never ever find the truth, wouldn't be interested, but instead were intimidating witnesses, threatening people, pointing to the patsy. It was the official story or nothing. The patsy, or nothing. And then if they kept doing that for a long time, and people in the end got pissed off and said, listen, what you're saying just doesn't make any sense. We want the truth. Then they would appoint a commission, and the commission would then spend about a year doing absolute nothing, except, I tell you, behind closed doors, they're drinking brandy, cognac, throwing darts, coming out unshaven at times saying, we're working really hard, we're working, we will find this. They're not, absolutely not. That will then go on for after 3-4 months, there will be an internal scandal, it's standard, so that they will say, you have used one of our credit cards to buy a dime bar, you know, like a chocolate bar. Yeah. You have misused our assets, like $4, and then they will replace you, and then a new person will come in and they will say, well, we need like 2-3 more months to inform the new person of what we have gone through. It's absolute BS. It's a matter of just dragging it out, dragging it out, dragging it out. And after about a year, they will present a stack of papers like this that makes no sense, or no index often, and nothing that has to do with the murder. And it will say about the investigation, well, they did a great job, but they made a mistake here, 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 and here. Now we've done our thing, thank you and goodbye. We've done everything, democracy rules, yay baby, and that's it. Until people start saying again, like, really? I mean, what's up here? And then they will just appoint a new commission that will look into the commission, that will look into the investigation, that will not look into the crime. And then that will drag out for a year. They will leak out to media all kinds of crap, so that normal people will just like, I don't care. I don't want to hear another word about it, even if it's the truth. Like the Palme assassination, the Swedish Prime Minister, there were 3 commissions following each other. Almost 4. Drag it out, drag it out, drag it out, and then in the end, people will just
get tired of it.
Yeah, and then they're off the hook. That's the whole thing. So, and also the patsy, the one that is blamed for it, it's always an alone person, a lone guy. Why alone? Because by law, then there's no conspiracy. Conspiracy actually means breathing together, but it has now taken on a whole new level where it's a matter of if 2 or more people are involved with planning criminal activity or doing it. That is a conspiracy. So if there's one person only, then by law, and if that person is then suicided or killed on location, thank you. And crazy, they always want them crazy or fanatics. Why? Because if you're crazy, there's no need for a motive. He was crazy. He just went up and shot him. What can you do? It's so sad. Now we don't have a prime minister. And then bring in their own guy and Bob's your uncle, and no one notices. So this setup was created by the old Romans and have been used so many times, over and over and over and over again. So I started becoming aware of these things, and I saw that, oh my God, JFK, Robert Kennedy, and I started finding the same people involved that were on location in both these assassinations. Then Martin Luther King as well, same people. I was like, are you kidding me? And Malcolm X, not the exact setup, but the same power structure behind it. And also the more I learned about the JFK assassination, when I saw the direction that things took after that, because that was a global coup d'etat almost, by this death machine that took over, really took a massive step forward there. And the reason why these assassinations are so important is because the people that carry them out, these power structures, are still in place. That is the thing. Otherwise, if Kennedy was just a president, nice guy, boom, dead, okay, it was very sad, he was a nice guy, thank you, let's move on. But here we have a totally different setup where bang in Dealey Plaza, and suddenly the whole world goes like this. Everything started after that. You have the whole escalating thing with the Vietnam War. The CIA goes berserk in totally all kinds of different directions. You have a whole load of military coups in South America. You have the whole drug trading thing, because that was what the Vietnam War was about, to get the drugs from the Golden Triangle into the West. So how to get that? Start a war. So they took over a war from France. France was like, we've had it, we're out. So America just moved in, sent all of these advisors, as they call them, and America hadn't even joined the Vietnam War when JFK was killed. They had some advisors there, but he was saying, we're going to pull out. Not good news for these dark ones. Then when I started, after a few years, to see that there was this pattern, I was like, how could they really be connected, these things? And I started seeing more and more clearly, even the same people are turning up in the background, on the street level, pulling the strings, being part of the commissions. What they do is, I don't know what you call that in English, or roquette with chess. You just go and then you move.
Yeah, I know.
No, but it's like, this is democracy. This is democracy. It's the same fingers, they just move locate. So in one commission, he is the chairman or the head of the commission. Then we got the submarine commission or whatever. They just do like this, boom, boom, and democracy. Thank God we got honest people and the authorities. We can trust them. A new one, a new commission. They just changed the name, and they love these beautiful names like the Truth and Harmony Commission, or the Stardust and Freedom Commission, whatever. All of it part of a psyop to make you think that something is actually going on, when actually this is what's going on. Bring in the prostitutes. We'll come out after 2 more months or something like that. It's awful. It's so super corrupt. And it's very, very important to understand when you start seeing the setup that the investigation, part of the crime, meaning that when these things happen, the people that step forward and are there doing press conferences, they are part of it. This is the wonderful thing. When you start seeing it, you will see, thank you very much, one stepping out of the shadows, got you. Next one, bring it on, what's your name? Thank you. There's another one for you. And then you have the people that take over, because it's always somebody gets killed or taken out. What happens then? Somebody takes over. Who is that person? That's another one, thank you. Tick. And who is he backing? Who's backing him? Coming up, okay, thank you. And tick, tick, tick. So you can start seeing these things, and then you see same people. My God.
Pattern then, yeah.
The same setup. And that's when at least I started seeing that the FBI, for instance, I call them fraud, bribery, and intimidation. That's what FBI stands for. Not saying about everyone, but my God, that is one corrupt institution. And what their task is to cover the whole thing up. The FBI moves in, they're the one setting up, if it's an attack or an alleged terror attack, or they will be the ones that have equipped the patsies, trained them, financed them, whatever. And these patsies have no idea that they're being set up often. They think it's a film take or like a film shoot or a joke or a prank or whatever, and suddenly they're right in the middle of it. You did it. And then afterwards FBI goes in and they just clear the whole thing. They confiscate all cameras, they confiscate all real evidence, and then they plant fake evidence pointing towards the patsy. That's FBI for you. If I can comment them, this is what I think. That's a golden finger, and here's another one. So the FBI, the CIA, that's
the same thing, or what?
So it's the CIA, it's the cocaine import agency.
I see.
But for hire. It's an agency for hire. You can hire them. So if you're some kind of businessman, like one of these big institutions that just, we want bananas and we want them cheap, okay? Let's make a military coup in that country where the bananas grow. So we just hire the CIA. They go in with their task. They create a military coup. They take over and they get the whole thing. It's always normal people that are paying, that are turning into slaves and so on. And they create mass murders as well. So very, very brutal. Very, very brutal. So anyway, I come and I go. So in 1986, when that was after 6 years that I've been really digging into this, the Swedish Prime Minister is said to have been murdered in the streets of Stockholm. Olof Palme was his name. And I thought, I did not like the guy at all. He was an arrogant besserwisser, speaking down to people, officially a man of the people, taking care of the poor and really caring. Absolutely not. That was not. We were talking about before here when I came to the studio, when my only security is I look in people's eyes, I look in your eyes, I feel, yeah. I look in somebody else's now, because you could be somebody that really want me bad, to hurt me. I've been threatened, I've had attacks on me, I've had people murdered around me. So I'm a one-man band with a small little team around me. So the only protection I have is my heart and feeling.
Your intuition.
Yeah,
right?
because I'm in a minefield. So around the Ole Palme assassination, like I said, I did not like him at all. And but I lived in Sweden. I mean, I moved to Sweden when I was a kid, and I thought, well, sad for his family that he died. I will not miss him. But otherwise than that, thank God we're in Sweden. I can trust the police. The investigation will for sure be very efficient because Sweden is efficient, officially. And that's it. And then I started seeing the exact same template moving. And I was like, you must be shitting me. Excuse my language, but I mean, it felt to me like somebody pulled the carpet under my feet, because like, how is this possible that it's starting to follow the exact same template as assassinations on the other side of the ocean, other countries, other continents, because I started seeing these so many different places, even all the way back to the Romans and so on. How is that possible if they're not somehow connected? So I was like, I mean, I'm getting paranoid here, because no. And then I saw, like for instance, it was 23 years after the JFK assassination. So I had all of these bullets there, and then Robert Kennedy, yeah, the same ones, doop, 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 Martin Luther King, boop, 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 Malcolm X, boop, 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 Abraham Lincoln, they did that there as well. So I was like, okay, and if I'm right here, then, and I just checked the list, I saw what was going on in Sweden, then the next one will be this. 2 weeks later, it happened in Sweden. It blew my mind, because suddenly I was living in a country that was not the country I believed. I just felt I have been taken for a ride here on a level that I can't even imagine. I grew up with Pippi Longstocking and like the Swedish Prime Minister on a bicycle without bodyguards. Oh, Sweden is so wonderful, it's a white island in the world, democracy, all the rest of the world is corrupt and bad, but Sweden? And then suddenly this happened. I was deeply shocked. I really was, because it shook me in my core. Yeah. Because suddenly I was like, how is this? I mean, how could this happen here? And why is nobody reacting? So suddenly I was in the whole dark entanglement of rotten conspiracy smell coming out of this country where
you were living, right?
Where I was living, and where I always felt safe. And so what I did, I quit my job. Also, I was in love with a girl, and there was a chance for me to play badminton with her once a week. She never fancied me, but I really fancied her. So I moved, and she was living in Stockholm. So I moved there. I got a bus driver's license, and I started cleaning toilets, whatever. And I moved there to see for myself what has happened in this country, because suddenly I don't have to go 50,000 kilometers on the other side of the world. I am right in it. So I moved up there, and it was, many times I felt that I'm somehow guided. I'm not religious as such, but I sure feel that sometimes the coincidences are just like divine synchronicity. And so even when driving up to Stockholm, the guy that drove me up there, a friend of mine, he got a phone call saying, would you like to come to a party? And, yeah, let's go to the party. I mean, I didn't know anyone in Stockholm, so yeah, for sure. We went there, and while we were there, I noticed that there was a girl sitting crying in the kitchen. So I just went out to her and said, how's it going? You know, are you okay? And turned out she was a witness to the assassination that had been harassed by the police. That was why she was crying. What are the chances, you know? And there were several of these when I bumped into people that were in key locations around this whole thing. So I just felt like I was being guided into this dark. It gets very dark when you get into these areas. And also there was a group in Sweden called the Private Investigators, which was just a group of normal, ordinary people, former lawyers, police officers, dentists, you know, mostly old guys that were very concerned about what was going on in Sweden, because not a lot of people knew the whole truth to this very day. It's a super complex operation, the biggest murder investigation in the world, the most expensive one. They have used more than 2 billion Swedish krona. That's billion. Do you know how many zeros that is? That is a lot.
Yes,
that could have been used to something else than just cover up an assassination. So anyway, so I got involved with these people, and they were being harassed. We were being made jokes of in media. Everybody was laughing at it. I could not care less. So what I did was, at that point, no one knew about me. I was Mr. Nobody, the shadow man, whatever. And so what I did was, there were all of these people that had already spent several years looking into this one, and had filled whole rooms with documents and reports and you name it, books and whatever.
How did you find them? Just...
I don't know.
Coincidence also?
Yeah, something like that. I heard, I think somewhere, someone saying, and I met one of them, and he took me to one of these meetings. And I mean, these guys, some of them, I tell you, if I say colorful, that's an understatement, because some of them were real tinfoil hats, you know. You could see it like, really? What are you doing here? But other people were very, very serious. It was just a small little group. And also I was like, why are you making so much fun of these people? They're really trying, and no ordinary journalists are doing absolute zero. Why are you not encouraging them or say applauding them for at least somebody's trying? So I felt the same, somebody's trying to stop this one. So what I did was I spent so many days and hours with them. I was driving bus, then I went straight home to one of them, and I went through all of the papers in every single home I went, all of them, taking photocopies, I mean, thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of pages of documents and all of it, because these people most of them were very passionate about one part and another part and another part. So it was only when I started putting it together, with also my experience seeing with JFK, Robert Kennedy, Martin Luther King, what made me different to them, because they were like staring at the blood like this. This is a Swedish murder. Where is the solution? Where I came from, seeing that
see the whole picture more.
There's a much bigger picture going on here, because otherwise, they're somehow connected here. So don't just stare at that. You have to see it from a bigger, and also since I've seen hundreds of people dead around JFK and Robert Kennedy and Martin Luther King, there's so many people that have been suicided, died in accidents, witnesses, people involved. I mean, I met one guy that he was a mathematician who did statistics. He said, the chances of you dying young, if you had any kind of connection with the JFK assassination, not being part of it, but just knowing something or being married to someone or being a witness or was 1 trillion higher than an ordinary person. So it's not to be paranoid to say that I have been in scary areas and I'm living in it. So that is not being...
How do you protect yourself, if I may ask?
That is a good question. I've got the only protection I have is not to have protection. I stand like this.
You come out and tell
I
everything
do
you know.
not hide.
Okay.
My address, my home address is on my website. If you want to come find me, not difficult. I mean, they can track me. If I can track down assassins, they will find me like this. So I don't use encryption. I don't do anything like that. I stand like this, but in peace, which is a fantastic so-called weapon. I wouldn't call it a weapon, but it is a peacemaker. It is a fantastic thing. And if I can give you an example, I love these things. I love them. People say, how can you deal with so much darkness? How can you be in all of it? It's not dark at all. It is dark, but it's in the darkness that you see light as well. And you see these beautiful individuals that have proven themselves and are still standing, even though their lives are being destroyed, they're being threatened, their families are leaving them, everybody, and they still stand in truth. I've met so many of them. I mean, you look in the eyes of these individuals, it's like, oh my God. I just feel, I've fallen in love with them just because of the purity and the intention and so on. Then we got all of these big egos that are banging, so there's a lot mixed. But anyway, what I was going to say is the power of love is not just the name of a song. In my world, that is true. And if you see in laboratories, for instance, in my understanding, the highest frequency of all is the frequency of love. It's higher than the frequency of thought.
Yes.
I'm not talking about being in love, lust.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. I want you, baby. If you're nice to me, I'll be nice to you. That is not love. Love is the thing where a parent would just jump into a burning building to bring out their child.
Unconditional love.
Unconditional. The power of love is... And so in laboratories, the lowest of all is fear. Absolute terror. That is so low. And when you... In laboratories, I've seen fantastic tests when they have different frequencies meet. It's not like they start and fight and they end up in the middle like 50-50. The lower one just it gets annulled. It is gone. And I've seen that in many situations, not many, but some very powerful ones, where I've been blessed enough to be part of it, where for instance, when something happens, I try to go there very often to be in the midst of it all, because after one of these alleged terror attacks goes down, the people that are there on site guarding it is the ones who carried it out. And what they're guarding is for people like me not to get too close or to get rid of us. So not a very nice situation once you start seeing it, because then you know also I'm approaching somebody that would like to bite the head of me. So in certain situations, I've been approached by people in the whole shebang, you know, big guns and bulletproof vests and whatever. Their language is domination. Their language is management by fear. They rule by freaking you out. The constant experience for them is that people bend over, pull down their pants and say, I'll surrender. But if you do not do that, what I do is, and I learned this from my beautiful Raja Yoga teacher, Nelly Chelaram. It's Raja Yoga is the science of the mind. It has nothing to, I'm stiff like a log, but this one has really been helped by it. And what I do is when they're normally aggressive, you know, because, and I don't blame them. They have been told I'm the enemy, so I will not blame them. I can totally understand they're doing their job. At the same time, I do not want my head bashed in. So they approach me, screaming, looking angry, whatever. So what I do is I turn down the volume, so I do not hear what they're saying, because then I can very easily get into fear mode. And if I get afraid, that's when you get hurt. So what I do is I stand totally vulnerable, arms down, like, you want to kill me? I'm here. But what I do is, because my mind can only think one thought at a time, so instead of letting it go into fear, the thing that works for me is divine, divine, divine. I look into the eyes of this individual. The eyes are normally so black, you know, they're very scary. At least I think it's very scary with black eyes like that. It's also where they've got like things that sounds and could say goodbye head, these type of things. So I focus and I look in these black eyes there's no light whatsoever. There's only violence, only hate, only destruction in these eyes. And so I look in these eyes, turn down the volume, and then I repeat the word in my mind, so I don't go like this. Divine, divine, he, she is somebody's father, somebody's son. He doesn't know what he's doing. He believes what he's doing is right. Divine, divine, he's beautiful. I love him, I love him, I love him. He's my brother. It's only for me to keep centered. Yeah. But what happens, this is the one that is amazing, amazing. And then I look in these dark eyes, keep the focus on love and compassion and not judgment. I cannot, if I try to manipulate this, I get hurt. Yeah. It needs to be pure. So I need to be very centered in these situations. And then I look for the divine spark, the human spark in these black eyes. And when I stand like this, or anyone that stands in that purity, something very strange happens. Because it's like this empire of terror that has always worked. It's their tool. I will bash your head in. You will bend down. If you do not do that, if you don't even look aggressive, if you don't even look afraid, if you don't even try to defend yourself, you're just standing there, they get confused. So they're like this, and then you see that there's first confusion, it goes like microseconds, confusion, and then suddenly fear. They become fearful of the peaceful person. And then it's like, and then suddenly, there's this like, it's like a spark, like a mini explosion of light. Just, and I know when that comes, that was it. His whole world cracked there. I do not believe that person will be able to continue with his career, his force, violent, brutality career will not work after that one, because something has changed. There's a crack. And 2 times after these events, like 5-10 minutes after they wanted to bash my head in, we're sitting talking like this. And he's like, do you know, my wife doesn't understand, or she doesn't approve that I want bulletproof underpants on in the bed or whatever, do you know, or my son, you know, we had a bad time. And for me to sit there with this former monster, in my opinion, that suddenly we met, that there's this bridge, that there's this thing. And I have 2 business cards given from people like that in SWAT teams, where they've said, listen, if you need anything, just give me, here's my private number, give me a call, I'll sort it out, whatever. And I'm like, you just wanted to kill me. And now we are here. This is interesting, isn't it?
Do
the
they
power
really
of
get
love.
it? I mean, do you ask them, do you see the change, or you just
No, I know.
That?
I know that they will not be able to, because something has entered. And I've spoken to a guy called Alan Taylor in England, who is a beautiful person, who used to be one of the officers in one of these SWAT teams, where I described a lot of these things, and he said, oh my God, that is the thing that can break through. Because nothing else, if you go violent, if you do anything, if you just do like this, that it's their cue to get in, destroy you. They're sitting in their vans, they don't know who you are. They've just been told, target this individual, destroy. There's no discussion, it's only brutality. And they know how to hurt you. And he said that in these vans, it's just like music, heavy death metal, brum, 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 Rambo movies, all of this, and then, okay, and out. So that's what you're up against, but the power of love. And that one is amazing. I love it. And also, do you know, like things, over the years, my life is like a cheap B movie, I tell you. If you check my Skype contacts, it's like CIA, FBI, former this, former that, Pentagon, all of these type of things. Well, sometimes I'm looking at like, this is unreal. And I'm not the one contacting, they've contacted me. And one of the things that my teacher here, Melanie, one of the things is she always signs off with love and light or something like that, peace and joy, love and light. So it's not totally, and I do that as well, but it's not so easy to write to like a Green Beret or a general or a former assassin, love and light, Ole. But I do it, and do you know what I get back after a little while? Love and light.
Oh, okay.
And I just, do you know, because that is the super wimpiest thing you can ever say to someone like that. But it is like a boom, boom. Wake up, you're on the wrong track.
Yeah.
I saw, there's one man that I really admired. His name was Michael Rupert. He was an LAPD officer. And he was one of the first people that stepped forward and was exposing about the Iran-Contra scandal and also 9/11 and the government involvement. Very brave individual. Got his whole life destroyed. What else is new? And ended up committing suicide. It was actually a suicide. He just had enough, I think. According to his friends, it was a suicide. But I saw this interview with him, and he was talking about the role of the scout, the Indian role of the scout. And when he was talking about that, my whole inner being was just vibrating in harmony with what he was saying, because he said the scout has to go into enemy territory on his own, with the risk of being terminated, into the belly of the beast, stay alive, find the information, bring the information back that can help the tribe, but on his own. And he was sitting crying when he was saying these things, and I mean about what it is to be on your own in these areas. And it really, really resonated with me, because this is the last 30, I don't know, years of my life. Because people say, oh, now I'm sitting here in this chair. This did not come easy.
Yeah, I believe that. I mean,
sorry?
I believe that. It's very courageous. I mean,
I don't know what it is. I just feel it's my dharma. I'm here. Since I was a little boy, when people said, what are you going to do when you grow up? I'm going to be a stuntman or save the world. And I feel somehow I combine the two.
Yeah.
I don't know what, but my intention is peace. And I'm super naive, people say. Do I care? Absolutely not. Because my intention is global peace, global harmony, equality, balance, everything. I want to create paradise on earth here. Will I succeed? I have absolutely no idea, but I will do my utmost. And if I fail, okay, fine, I did my utmost. I will die happy and proud. And if I succeed, or am part of the solution, yeehaw, baby. I mean, what could be better than that?
Yeah,
because the good news is that when you look globally of what is going on in the world, it's such a small little group that is behind so much mayhem. It's a tiny little group that it's like an octopus with tentacles in every single important areas of our lives. But it's the same head. It's the same head.
And who is it?
Who is it? That's a very good question. When you look at the power pyramid, it's a power structure, a pyramid power structure. But there's pyramids inside pyramids inside pyramids inside pyramids, and all of them are compartmentalized, meaning that no one knows the whole thing by design except the people at the top. Who is at the absolute top, I have no idea about. But I do know that it's up until a level where I know I can pinpoint people. The Bilderberg group, super players in this whole thing. Everyone that goes to the Bilderberg group or is invited, and more than once, you cannot trust them at all. They should be tried for treason. They are absolute traitors for the rest of us. The Council on Foreign Relations, exactly the same. The Trilateral Commission, most of these people are members in all three or two or one. Same people, key people in key positions in society. Skull and Bones, Club of Rome, that area. But they are just players down here. There's a whole big shebang on top of it. And we get into very weird, bizarre, Freemasonic, satanic. I mean, I believe in, we point up for the light. They are totally involved with the dark forces. So I'm coming to a point almost where I used to believe that the devil and evil was just a concept, but it feels to me more and more that it's a real thing, that it's a real power, and that we're in a spiritual battle where it's about good and bad. And so what we are doing, you, I, many other people, are sort of on a street level, but at the same time there's this higher, the real battle is going up here, and that's the battle of our souls, our minds. Because the good news is that this is where the battle should be fought. Also because these dark forces, the only way they can control us is through fear. That's why they keep having to keep us fearful with all these crap operations, bang, boom, all of these things.
Like
ISIS, Al-Qaeda.
False flag operations, right?
False flag is, yeah.
What's actually the definition of false flag? Do you have there a definition?
Yeah. A false flag is an old naval term, a marine term, from the old days when countries like Holland, Great Britain, Spain was just traveling around, raping, plunder, death and destruction. And they had the military, the gun power to do it. I mean, nobody could stand up against them. They had these armadas of ships that could just go and... But this is the thing, if you're a bully, or if sometimes it works against you, there's this blowback. So that could be with trading agreements with neighboring nations and so on. So somebody came up with the idea, instead of us always being the bad boys, why don't we twist it around? We do a psyop here. So what they did, they started a psychological operation where it's the mind, they play around with your mind, which is super important in these areas. So somebody came up with the idea, this nation is the target, or whatever the target was. Let's put that flag, the flag of that nation, on one of our own ships. Then we let our own ship attack us, and then instead of us being the bullies, oh my God, we're under attack, we need to protect ourselves, we need to defend ourselves, invasion, rape and plunder. So the exact same thing, but then the rest of the world, so courageous. It's fantastic, isn't it? Look at them, they were attacked and then they managed to do this.
Great, yeah.
So it's like you see the US, for instance, they've got more weapon power, than the whole rest of the world together. And then they say, this nation is threatening us. We have to defend ourselves. It's like you take Mike Tyson and you put him into a child, whatever it's called, like a...
Creep,
Yeah, and well, this infant, he puked on my foot. Because of that, I smashed him. Mike Tyson was okay to totally destroy this child. That's the exact thing. And the rest of us are like, just like in Israel, they say, there's this conflict. No, it's not a conflict. It's genocide. There's not, you got Israel with a military power of like this, funded by the US. I think it's 10 million per day. And then you got Gaza and the Palestinian people blocked in, massive big walls, no clean water, no nothing, everything is stopped in there, no weapons, most of them children, and then there's this little firework that comes, boom, and then they say, you attacked us, and I would very much question who fired that thing to start with, boom, and then in with F-16 fighters, bombing the whole thing over and over and over again. And we say, well, it's a conflict. It is not a conflict, and it's a super shame. I mean, shame on us, the rest of the world, that are not doing anything. I mean, it's awful. We should be ashamed of ourselves, all of us.
Yeah, that's true. I always ask myself, how do they get away with the lies? How can they manage this?
Because
nobody's getting it.
We're so brain dead. We're like in a spell. It's like so many are, you know. No, I don't want to talk about these things. It's unpleasant. Let's watch football instead. X Factor, Idol, or Neighbors, or whatever. Doom, 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 and bring on another pizza, and life is good again. But the thing is, it's just down the road. Israel is not that long.
No, I know.
And also, it's spreading because they're just showing it how they do it. If we don't do anything about it, I mean, the whole of Europe is under attack at the moment.
It's getting closer, right?
It's getting closer.
It's already here, actually, right?
It is, and if I'm correct, we are in a full-scale war, full-spectrum war, but it's a silent war. You don't hear the bombs explode here. You don't feel the body pain on you, but we are being attacked through water, to air with chemtrails, GMOs, with vaccines, with assassinations, with false flag operations, with you name it, taxations of absolutely unjust wars against countries that are totally innocent, absolute innocent.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to the false flag. I'm sorry I take off like this.
No, that's fine.
The false flags, they started doing that. Then the pirates thought, that's a good one. So they turned it around. So they came, whatever ship they were going to attack, they put on that flag. So the Spaniards, for instance, they were like that. Oh, there's a ship coming. Well, it's one of ours, so we can just relax. And then they say, oh my God, it's Captain Hook. Too late. And that's it. But this false flag concept has been, I do not know any war in modern times that have not been started with a false flag. Very few. Most of them are false flags. And then it comes out, like 30 years later, well, actually nothing happened. But we just managed to start this massive war because of it. And people are after, well, it's 30 years ago, it's 50, what to do? Well, it's happening now as well. So there's these, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you.
Just go ahead.
No, there's specific things that I think is very important to understand, and this is where I normally get shut down on YouTube, Google, all of that, is they just terminate everything when I've done between 500 and 1,000 interviews about these, and it's very clear when I talk about false flag operations, problem, reaction, solution, these different tactics, describing them in detail, that is when they shut it down. Interesting. So, because the people in power, or whatever is in power, are very small. They're very few compared to billions of us. I would say, if I know anything, I think they're in the thousands. We are billions. Do you know how many zeros a billion is? That is
many. 12? I don't know.
It's like Bill Gates. There's another nice guy for you. Not. He said somewhere like, if he spends 3 million per day, if he stops his income today and he spends 3 million per day, he will still be able to support himself for at least 100 years. That is a billion. So that is quite a lot, And we are many. 8,000 is a joke. It's like a small little town of these individuals, but they're not very nice people. Super psychopaths, super criminals, organized crime.
Where are they?
Mass murderers. Sorry?
Are they distributed all over the world?
Yeah, because they like to join up. That's the thing. Because psychopaths do not have compassion, empathy, meaning that they're perfect for their task. Yeah. They don't care. So for us to point a finger at, how can you do this to us? They can, and they do. So, but you say, I would never do that. No, because you're not a psychopathic killer. I have that from CIA whistleblower Chip Tatum, because I said, I do not get the mentality behind these things. Yeah. And he said, the only reason you don't get it is because you're not a psychopathic killer. His words. If you were, this would make perfect sense to you.